Blog Talk Radio.
Yes, y'all. You are now listening to the sound of the shofar blowing. The shofar is blown to inspire the people to do their thing, and the shofar is blown to coordinate a king or a queen. And today the ram's horn, the shofar, is being blown to call us to awaken the eagle, the divine planner within us. This is Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Shophar from Faux Show Energy Work. And today my guest is Master Yao Morris. He is one of the three masters I attribute to helping me come into my path with tantric sensual energy work. And I met this brother back in 2002 and definitely changed my life. He is the author of The Return, also Awakening the Master Feminine, and the owner of thegrandtrine International. So with that, I want to go ahead and bring on Master Yao. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing real good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no question. It's always an honor, man. Always an honor. Definitely. So definitely want to jump in this because we have another, each one of the four energies that we've been, going over. This is the third one. This is the eagle. And these are the masculine energies that are in nature. And so your book goes into what those energies are and how we as human beings, especially in this case the masculine, how we can tap into it. So first off, what is the ego energy?
It's when I talk about the ego, the first thing that I usually say that is the least glamorous of the four archetypes. About the warrior, It's not. When we talk about the warrior, it's not hard for people to imagine. They see a guy in armor and a sword up on a horse charging into battle or whatever. When we talk about the hunter, we see the alligator sliding through the water waiting for something to get too close, and he snaps up and he's got his game and he's eating. And these things are easy for us to envision, the hunter. We see a man with a bow and arrow. And the healer, everybody knows the smooth talker, the artist, the healer, the shaman. Those archetypes are easy to envision. But the ego, when we talk about the alpha male, it's really the ego we're talking about more than anybody else. Because in this world today and throughout time, it's the man who plans, who has knowledge and wisdom, who really succeeds. I often think of all the nerds, that for so many years lived as second-class citizens, so to speak. And then, technology came on the scene. And that's an ego attribute, if you will. And they rule today. They are really determining what our daily life looks like. These little guy with glasses sitting in an office someplace, planning what's going to be our reality. The ego is a man who looks forward in a linear fashion without the distraction of illusion. He's looking three ways. He's looking at the present, he's looking ahead, and he's looking back at history to determine what to see. It's like when I was a teenager, I saw what was right in front of me, what went with me, what was, something that affected me directly. And later on, as I developed my ego better, I started thinking bigger. I started looking at the world as not just having me in it. I started looking at things, predicting what they're going to become so that I could react today and be ready for tomorrow. And the biggest difference between the man with his ego on and the man who doesn't have his ego developed is that he is looking for more than one person at a time, and he's looking at more than one time frame in terms of planning action.
Wow. Okay, man, that's some good stuff. That's worth the price of admission right there. I recently had saw this YouTube video I recommend for anyone that's listening to this. They'd probably be interested in this as well. It's called How Abundance Will Change the World. That's the name of it. If you put that into YouTube, it'll come up. And it shows the guy behind Tesla, Elon Musk, and some other kind of brainiacs talking about how technology is changing the world in such a pace that eventually currency, that's right, money, our dependency on currency will have to go away, because in these talks they go over this, because it's one thing to take the job of the guy who drives the Uber car or who dumps the chicken nuggets into the grease. That's expendable, right? But when you start taking the heart surgeon's job, because you can now get a robot, you can get AI and artificial intelligence to do it, now you got a societal problem. And so that's what this YouTube video is talking about. But it reminds me of what you're talking about with the ego. Let's go even deeper into this. So in your book, you point out some really interesting things. What is the role of the ego in the development of the child, his mate, and his tribe?
Well, you made a very important statement. Men today who are, young adults are looking at the world today and then trying to decide what to do. They're reacting. So you talk about robots taking the place of heart surgeons. Then if that's going to be the actual scenario 10 years from now, then I would plan to be a robot mechanic or a robot planner, you see, and not try to be a heart surgeon and try to figure out how am I going to make more money than a heart surgeon will. But I'm telling you today, our ego is looking ahead, and here's what I see. I see that technology is going to run into some problems, and those problems are political, because too many people are losing jobs. Right now, we're looking at a retail apocalypse in 2019, 2020, and we're looking at a vacuum of leadership in the political arena. When this current president's term is over, who is going to come and what's going to be their agenda? I see that the technological pace that we're on cannot be sustained. So I fully believe that 50 years from now, we're going to see sailing ships again. Because, at some point in time, fuel becomes too expensive and too hard to get politically, that you're going to have to go back to more sustainable ways of transportation. I see a situation where people say, we can't build any more roads. We can't maintain the ones we got. Therefore, we need to start living close to where we work. We need to start having food close to where we eat. We need to start eliminating the need to move from one place to the other. There's a job there. Plan for it now. And so if the man is talking to his kids, that is the kind of conversation he needs to have. He needs to look and see not just the fact that other people are making plans that affect you, but looking at the limitations and seeing realistically what is going to happen. I don't believe that we're going to see a continuation of robots and all of these things taking over jobs. Why? Because somebody's got to buy stuff. Right. Either they're going to give it out for free, which I don't think that's going to happen. My ego doesn't see that. Or somebody's got to buy stuff, and if they don't have people buying stuff, the nation becomes vulnerable to external influence. And that's not a good thing. So what is going to be the solution to that, realistically? And that solution is going to be a political solution, not a technological solution. The ego has to see that. So when all of these retail stores start to collapse, who steps into the vacuum? How many people are not going to be able, because of credit issues, geographical issues, demographical issues, to make purchases enough to sustain these large businesses? And if that the case, what are the economic opportunities there? Who is going to rent all of this vacant space that's going to be left when these stores close? And is this sustainable? So Black Eagle said all of these stores that they have built today are not sustainable. Therefore, there's going to come a time, and I talked about this in return, when there's going to be a vacuum where the demands of many of the consumers cannot be met because the consumer can't afford the product. And so if the product can be built at a less cost and it doesn't need to be transported as far, and the cost of warehousing isn't the same as the current competition, an opportunity exists. At what point on the curve does it become expedient to lease or purchase these properties that are abandoned and develop them into a retail operation that can succeed? That is what the Eagle should be doing.
Okay. Put that in your pipe and smoke it out there, family. All right. Well, let's get your ego totally out there, because I know you got even more insights or worldviews than what you're sharing even there. So when I first met you and Nityama, you both were talking about how Tantra, is even a technology, if you will. So let's inject, Tantra into this conversation, because that's one of the ways that we actually bring the Eagle or any of the other House of Man, House of Woman online. Let's interject that. And how does Tantra help us deal with the illusions that you talk about? Because we want to be able to see in a linear fashion, the illusions and false belief systems, so that we can have the Eagle online. So what role does Tantra play in your Eagle projections?
Well, let's look at this very clearly and not be distracted by the distractions.
Sure.
What do people have to do? They have to eat. They have to live somewhere. Real estate, farming. They need furniture. They have to have health. So Tantra heals. Right now, the largest growing industry in the world is medical. So there are a great amount of pressure for people to be sick. And there has never been a time when there's more information out here. And at the same time, there's never been a time when more people are becoming sick and dying at a younger age. Tantra can step in and heal that at a reduced cost below what the medical industry charges for prescription drugs and hospital stay, doctor visits. Therefore, there's the opportunity to produce a product service that is competitive, that will get the job done. It's not going to go away. In other words, if you develop your Tantra skills to the ability that you can heal, you have two obstacles. You have the legal obstacle of the medical industry and the FDA, but there are ways to get around that legally.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then you have the option of setting up a clinic, focusing on a particular group of illnesses, and going into business to heal them. Get your proper permits, get your proper licensing, and figure out how to market that business, and there you go. You can use your tantric skills to make money. So we have students now who can deal with diabetes, kidney issues. That I'm talking about people who are on dialysis. It's a fast-growing scenario, but it's something that can be dealt with without drugs, without the medical profession. High blood pressure. I'm talking about a number of illnesses that are very common, and the procedure to cure them or heal them or at least mitigate them exist within Grand Trine and within other organizations, so that with slight changes in diet and through the energy work, you can accomplish the remediation of symptoms. So that's just one scenario. What is something else that people are always going to do? Sex. And right now, most people are doing juvenile sex. They never evolved past the teenage level of maturity in their sexual game.
Juvenile sex. Yeah, juvenile sex. You didn't say something. Probably if they weren't listening, that probably perked them up. So go into juvenile sex. Why are most of us having juvenile sex?
Because they don't know anything about Tantra and resist learning. So Ron Wills talks about this a lot in terms of, how men need to get their game together. And it's not really about competition with other men. It's about the fact that female today has a certain sexual requirement. It's a requirement. It's not a wish. It's not a luxury. It's something that she needs, irrespective of want. It's something that's necessary for her proper health, especially if she at some point in time intends to become pregnant and have a healthy delivery. So there are probably 60 to 65% of the women who are not properly orgasmic. Falls on men who don't elevate their sexual game beyond the juvenile stage. It's several things. Number one, they don't make sex long enough. They don't make sex intensely enough, and they don't balance out the female's energy body so that the sex has a healing aspect to it. Those three capacities. Tantra teaches men how to alleviate that and gives them the ability to bring women to a proper sexual conclusion at least once per month. So you can take a lot of pressure off relationships if you can give your woman a happy ending. And by happy ending, I don't mean just a climax. I mean where she's coming to a situation where all of her hormones have their proper cycle, the tension that she builds up is properly relieved, and she's able to balance out her reproductive system. So these are natural requirements. They're not luxuries. All women need that. And men right now who are in the juvenile stage can't satisfy that.
Right. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, we just don't know what we don't know. And then, like you said, I know you've seen it too, a lot of guys, we can't humble ourselves. Like, in order to, like when you first came over my house that time, you put up your board and you had the orgasmic, starting from the heart chakra area and going down. And, up to that point, I thought I had some pretty good sexual experiences. But I was like, okay, I don't know this part, And then the bar just kept getting raised, and you introduced me to Nitiyama, and so I had to keep rethinking and humbling myself in order to go to a higher level. But I think there is a natural tendency for men, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, for us to question other men's intentions or to kind of have a guard up. That's probably one of the faculties of the masculine energy, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it can be overstated.
I totally agree. If your bar is set at the Nitiyama level, that's pretty hard to reach.
Right.
He kind of intimidates brothers. With some of the stuff that he does that just seems supernatural. And even though it's possible to reach that, I try not to put that level of I try not to put that level out there, because it tends to, men think there's no way I can ever get there, and they just stop trying. So I set the bar a little lower than that.
Right.
So that they think, okay, at least maybe there's a chance I can get there. But yes, you can get there. Now, so the eagle is looking at this and he's saying, his worldview is big. So he's like saying, you don't know what you don't know. And basically, if you start Googling these things that we're talking about, Tantra, Master Yao, Grand Trine, Nityama, Shophar, then something's going to come up that should tell you, okay, there's something you don't know that can be of value to you. And if your ego is truly online, you're going to at least research it to see if this is going to help you in your planning of life. You know, in the private session, in the private classes that we do, you know, we talk about a lot of things that, you know, that we don't share publicly. And one of the things that we talk about is the fact that most of the stuff that will make your life easier today, you don't know exists. When Tesla, his experiments and everything like that, you know, the portal of electricity did not exist. So, I mean, people knew about electricity 2,000 years ago. Many different scientists and thinkers and scholars around the world knew about electricity. But at the time, the production of wire did not exist. The knowledge of metals and how to refine them did not exist, at least on a worldwide scale. And there were many other things that were not in place, so they couldn't really do much with the whole electrical concept. What Tesla looked at was, we have to change the event horizon. In other words, what happened is not that he invented electrical systems, but he changed the vocabulary of people, and he changed the worldview of people to conceive that it was possible. So that 50 years after, the world went through an event horizon where it began to see electricity as a necessary part of life. That's the real miracle. That's an ego function. So that he said, how do we make these systems cost-effective and available on a large mass scale? So the first thing that they did was they approached the politicians about it. So I want you to go back now and just think about this thing in another way. Most of the things that separate us from paradise already exist, but we're not aware of them. It requires an event horizon to occur that changes so that after that event, everything that happened before is no longer the reality. There's a new reality now, and all other things in the reality have to shift to take that new reality into consideration. So when you convince politicians that electricity is possible and beneficial, you have changed the event horizon. It's like the atomic bomb. After the first atomic bomb was dropped and exploded and people knew about it, it changed the worldview of everybody. Everything else in the world shifted to take that into consideration, that somebody can drop a bomb on you and you're gone. And so what we don't understand is that if you look ahead and you say, well, what would happen if we convinced the politicians that we could produce energy from the sun in a liquid form that would power machines efficiently as oil did? So it does exist. Because you can look at any plant out here, look at any jungle, and plants are producing electrical energy in huge amounts, mega amounts. And the science exists to convert that energy, chlorophyll energy, into liquid form, where it is stable. So stop and think about that. When people talk about the city of Atlantis, that they say, you know, used to exist in the age before this age, they said that things were powered by an endless source of energy. They didn't need oil, they didn't need kind of stuff like that. And they said that this energy, the liquid, looked green. And so my supposition is that they came into the knowledge of how to make, the green chlorophyll energy liquid. In other words, in plants liquefy it and distribute it throughout the plants. But why can't humans do it in a process outside of a plant using the same technology and keep it in a liquid form? Now, so let's say, the thing that separates that from being a reality is there is no event horizon that makes this appear as a possibility to the politicians who control the laws and who leverage the financial machinery. So in order for it to become a reality, everybody would say, well, all you got to do is come up with the science. No, that's not true. It requires the ego. You've got to plan and create a series of events that make this part of what people expect and part of what they believe can be. Now, to give you an idea of how this works, they use comic books to do this. So when Marvel and DC Comics, when they put these comics out there, oftentimes what they did was they showed these superheroes or the people around them using technology that did not exist yet in the general population, but the science of it partly existed. And because people in the comic book saw the possibility of it, they changed their mindset to incorporate a view that some of these things can be. For instance, cell phones. So, they had people using cell phones before cell phones came into existence. So, if you look at Star Trek, Star Trek had cell phones. They didn't call them cell phones, but that's basically what they were. So if you look at this thing, then the ego is talking about a scenario where you create reality by doing two things: convincing the politicians that it's going to be beneficial to them, and coming up with a media that allows you to export this idea of what that's going to look like out to people in such a way that it seems attractive. Give you an example, Wakanda. If you go up to any black person who's seen that movie, the concept of a black civilization that is separate from the world is appealing, and they believe it's possible just because of one movie. Now, you might say to yourself, well, that's fantasy. Well, no, it's not. Because if you think that the technology can't be derived and implemented to accomplish that, think again. You've got stealth airplanes that fly without being detected by radar. We did not think that was possible. In the 1950s, the comics did. Comics had planes flying that could not be detected by radar. And so what was necessary was for people to believe it's possible and to believe that it's going to be beneficial in order for the way to be paid so that the science could have an event horizon that would change the reality of the world, the current world. And these things are always possible. What's not possible is the foresight of the ego and planning it in such a way that people will allow it to come into existence.
Well, as usual, the 30 minutes, we're at the 30-minute mark now, and we could definitely easily go into another 30 minutes. Always interesting, always high vibration, conversation. Definitely, if you're open, if you're not, if it's not over your head if you're not ducking. And so definitely enjoying this. In wrapping this conversation up about the ego, how can people get more information about you, Master Yao? Your books or Grand Trine. So if they want to start learning this or they want to go down that path, can you give us your websites?
Well, the main website is Grand Trine International. In other words, Grand Trine is spelled T-R-I-N as in Nancy, E, Grand Trine, and we just use the abbreviation INT for international. So it's grandtrineint.com. And you can go on there, you can hit the store tab for books, and a lot of this information on the ego is in the book, Awakening the Master Masculine, which, by the way, is almost at the 100,000 level. In other words, out of 5 million books that are rated in terms of popularity, Awakening the Master Masculine is about 1,000 books away. In other words, 1,000 votes away from being at the 100. In other words, one of the 100,000 most popular books in the U.S. So the book is really doing well.
That's powerful.
And so then you can also go on the site and you can tab the home page, and it tells you how to contact us. You can go to the events calendar, and some of the events that we have going on now are the male semen retention class. We have a Tier 2 Tantra class coming up in June, and it mentions some other events and things that are happening in Grand Trine. They can contact Master Yao at thegrandtrine with the THE in the front at gmail.com. thegrandtrine@gmail.com.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the developments for the book, as it should be. That means that you're reaching people and getting some egos online, and definitely making the ripple effect, influencing the influence and everything. So, again, congrats on that. And thank you again for being on the show.
Excellent. Thank you.
No question. Always an honor. Well, again, family, we love y'all, and we want to thank y'all also for tuning in. And, again, you're listening to Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shophar. My guest today was Master Yao. And, y'all stay up, keep shining, keep climbing. Peace.
Motivation with Amazon Music.
You're still in bed? Didn't you go running?
Oh, I overslept. I'll go tomorrow. I'm getting in the shower.
Alexa, set an alarm for 5 a.m. tomorrow to hard rock music.
Okay, I'm up.
The right song exactly when you need it. Amazon Music, the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at amazonmusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel anytime.